G'day everyone, welcome back to my local SEO Adelaide series. This is actually the first episode of the series, so I'm not quite sure what it's going to become yet. It's a bit of an experiment, and I guess we'll see where it goes. But the idea is I want to be exploring various towns and suburbs within Adelaide and South Australia. Looking at local businesses, doing some SEO, some local SEO analysis about how they could improve, or just looking at different things and just making commentary on things that I find. And then at the end of the episode, and I'll probably put this into a separate video, but I'll talk about it more at the end, I'm going to play a little game called Geo Guesser based on the location that I've covered in the video. So I'll tell you more about that towards the end, but it's a sort of geographic game where you get placed on a spot on the map randomly, and then you've got to find as quickly as possible, try and find out where you are on the map. And it turns out it's quite fun. So and it sort of ties in well with the sort of location-based stuff that we're doing. So I've decided to focus on Balhannah for this first episode. It's a location close to my heart. I spent about 10 years of my childhood growing up in this area. It's changed a bit since then, a lot of development. So it's probably, it looks a little bit different to what I remember, but yeah, still a great part of the hills, this whole area. So should be interesting. So hopefully you can see my screen here. It's just a shot of Google Maps, and you can see Balhannah right here in the center. So I'm just going to have a look around. I'm going to avoid, clients and past clients and friends and stuff, and I'll just be kind of looking at random businesses. But so let's zoom in and see what we can find. This is a smallish town as far as Adelaide Hills towns goes. So there aren't actually that many businesses in the main street. So I don't know how many we'll get through. I'll probably try, and not quite sure what the ideal length will be, but maybe sort of 10, 20 minutes, not sure. But all right, well, every Australian town has a hotel. So it's probably worth noting up front that there's a few different ways to consume local business information, local search information when on Google. And then of course that also reflects in what needs to be optimized if you're trying to optimize a business for local search. One of them is through the search results, which is something I covered in my sort of intro video for this series, which if you haven't seen that and you're not that familiar with local SEO, I'd probably recommend watching that first. I'll put a link in the description down below. So that just, I've just given an overview of local SEO there and talked about some different ranking factors and stuff. And in that video, I was addressing kind of more the local search results you would see that look similar to any search result. Okay, this, this is what I'm talking about. So you've got the local results here. In this case, I'm searching for a specific business, so it's giving me this map pack. This knowledge panel, it's known as, or a local SEO knowledge panel on the right here. If you wanted to say hotels, Adelaide Hills, you would get something. Okay, in this case, it's giving me. In this case, it's actually giving me a tourism-specific map pack, whereas last week or in last video we were talking about a more general business map pack. So that's something I didn't actually touch on. This is, if you're in the tourism industry, like particularly the hotel industry, you'll actually get a different type of map pack. If I do restaurants, that should just give us the generic map pack. So that's what I was touching last week. So I guess that's three different ways that the local business information can be consumed. It's through a map pack like this. It's through the knowledge panel that I just touched on, where it's over here on the right, and it's got sort of web page results, and then a specific business on the right. And then there's the Google Maps itself, where you're looking at a map and you click on a business and you get information here on the left. And of course, if you're on a mobile device, the formatting, the layout and stuff is going to be different. And different things will be, different features will be sort of missing or hidden or harder to find or whatever. They just, prioritize for things for mobile. Anyway, let's jump in. So what do we got here? So most people will be familiar with looking at this kind of information. One thing that business owners often miss, which can be a super useful thing to do, both for local SEO itself, but also for sort of conversions and stuff, is to reply to your reviews. So if you get reviews, it's a great idea to reply. There's an option to do that within your Google dashboard, Google Business Dashboard. As you can see, you've got a kind of a recent review here, which was kind of so-so, 3 out of 5. There's other good reviews. It's got lots of reviews, so it would take, it takes a lot of time to go back and do them all. Probably wouldn't recommend that, but you could certainly start applying to new reviews. And then you just see a message from the owner underneath. So I might just be thanking someone for a review. If it's a good review, if it's kind of a so-so review, you sort of thank people for their feedback and maybe discuss how you're going to address that, or perhaps answer it if there's some sort of reason or there's further explanation required. Obviously, try to be respectful. Don't try and start arguments with customers that leave bad reviews. That's probably not going to look good, and it's not really going to achieve anything that positive for the business. So don't do that. But certainly, replying is good. It shows Google that you are attentive, that you're putting in effort. That's what they like to see, and that definitely helps. And it also looks great from a customer's point of view to see that the business owner is engaged with their customers in this platform. Yeah, they've got a great review, a great sort of overall rating here, 4.3. It's great. You'll see with these reviews here that different words are highlighted: atmosphere, service, staff, etc. So, and I guess you can also see here, a related part of that is you can actually filter the reviews by certain words and terms. And that's something that Google does automatically. And, from a user's perspective, I think it's quite useful if you're, they'll identify, different words that are going to be hot button words for people when they're trying to find a business to go eat lunch at or whatever. As a business owner, there's not a whole lot you can do with that, other than in your review strategy, you might try and incentivize, not so much incentivize, but try and sort of encourage people to use keywords in their reviews. Now there's different ways of doing that. I'm not going to go into them here, but that's something you could think on when you're sort of developing your review strategy, or doing your SEOs, to think, okay, we want customers to use these words, and how might you achieve that? Photos are super useful, particularly in the restaurant space. Google has been putting a lot of emphasis on encouraging the local guides. That's people that leave reviews and leave ratings and upload photos. So people in Google's local guides program, they've been putting emphasis on them to do more with photos. So often now, if you upload a photo of food to a restaurant, which Google can tell is food using their sort of machine learning algorithms, they know that the photo is of food, and they'll ask you, what is this food? Like, what's the name of this dish? And I'm not sure, don't think I've seen specifically how that's being used within the algorithm, but you can bet that it's either is being used in some way, or it will be used. So again, I'm not 100% sure how you would use that information as a business, but certainly you can brainstorm on ideas of doing that, different sorts of promotions, different sort of information you can give in your restaurant, or on tables, or different kind of communications you can give through social media and stuff like that. So this you do have the opportunity to, when you upload photos as an owner, you have an opportunity to categorize those in the back end, and you should certainly be doing that. You should be uploading photos in all of the categories that you have available. Then Google will do some of their own processing. Like I just said, they can automatically identify food. I think they'll automatically identify menus, and there's also the opportunity for users to sort of categorize their photos to some degree. So that's something you want to be aware of. Yeah, I think everything else on this looks interesting. This information is also something you can fill in. Some of these are fairly new. And also certainly the highlighting them is new since COVID, because of course a lot of restaurants moved to an online delivery model during COVID, or sort of different types of sort of curbside pickup and blah blah blah. So they introduced different sort of options there. Yeah, but I think this business is doing pretty well. Obviously, good ratings, good reviews. Information seems to be pretty complete. Yeah. So look at a couple of photos. Ah, yes. This one does look more or less the same as what I remember when I lived in the area. Ah, yes, very nice photos. Okay, let's drill down on some more businesses in the area. I do remember this, this group of shops. Look at chemist. So drugstore. Now, probably worth mentioning that I use a VPN. It's advisable probably for most people online. Well, it adds an extra layer of security basically to online browsing. And however, my VPN doesn't have an Adelaide endpoint, so I'm actually placed myself in Singapore at the moment. So you may have seen in my last video that the ads had an SG on some of them. So that's why I'm saying, that's probably why I'm saying the language here, drugstore, which you wouldn't, it's not really an Australian term. Chemist, it's probably what we would use, or I'm not quite sure of how common pharmacy is. That probably goes, excuse me, that kind of harkens back to something I said in the last video, where I said that different business categories can be, so the same business category can be given different names. So this would be a good example of that. There probably isn't different categories for drugstore, chemist, pharmacy, but in just different locations, they're going to be, be referred to differently or labeled differently, you might think of it. But yeah, so drugstore, the equivalent of drugstore, so chemist in this case, is probably the best category. And again, as I said in my last video, that's a very important part of optimization. Make sure that's correct. Also in the last video, I touched on keywords in the business name, and I said you weren't allowed to include any keywords that are not in your registered business name. However, something I didn't actually mention is there is an allowed option where if you have a chain of stores, you are allowed to put a location keyword in there to differentiate between your different stores. So that's basically what they've done here. So obviously, Chemmart is a chain, and they've put the word Balhannah for their Balhannah store, and that is actually allowed. So that's fine. And if you have a chain, then that's something you can do too. What else have we got here? We've got a little ad here. This is, how is this controlled? I can't remember off the top of my head. I believe this is an advertising option from within the Google Ads program. So that's another, sort of separate, completely separate. Some people think they're related in that if you pay for ads, you get higher rankings. Google, for their entire existence, has been very, insistent that there's no connection there. Some people are skeptical, but I mostly go with them with their word on that. I think that they're not actually related. But you can pay to have ads, and ads do have extra features that aren't really available for local, including where they're placed. This might be a prime example of that. The top of the search results are usually ads. The first 3 to 4 results are ads, and just various information that goes along with those ads that you just can't get as a local business. So certainly something to look into, and it's quite a different strategy, and it's something that actually works quite well in combination with SEO or local SEOs to have an ads budget and an ads strategy as well. So this ad, it's not related to local SEO, it's related to the ads platform, but it's kind of being placed on top here. I don't believe that, I'm not 100% sure if you can, how you can place this. There's some ads that are like this, that it's just an automatic thing from Google. They'll just place it if they think it's relevant to your campaign. But I don't think I've seen competitors being able to advertise on businesses like this, which is good. But competitors do come into the fold. Sometimes it's not happening on this listing, but sometimes you'll see like related businesses down the bottom. That's something to be aware of, I guess, with this platform. That probably kind of relates to something worth mentioning, which is even though this is kind of your listing, if it's your business, it's your listing, it's not actually owned by you. Even less like, something like a Facebook business page, you have the ability to close that down if you want to. But with a Google local page or listing or the information here, you can't actually close that down. If you close the business, you can tell Google that the business is closed, but you can't have the information removed from their data centers. There might be some legal avenue to that. For the most part, there might be a way of doing that legally. I'm not really sure about that, but in terms of like sort of the normal operation of the platform, if you sort of try to remove your listing, it'll still stay within their database, and it may still show up on the map or in search results. So you don't exactly own it as much as you think you might. So when you kind of see an ad or something on here, or other business information, or sometimes your information will get sort of changed without your input. That's from other people, suggesting changes. And you might think, oh, what's going on here? This is my listing. I feel like I don't have control. And the truth of it is, it isn't really your listing. It's something Google gives the ability to have input on, but it's really their data, and they're kind of reporting it as they see it. So that's something perhaps to keep in mind. This is an example of I was going to say a post, but actually, yes, this is a post. So, it's a relatively new feature. It's been around for a couple of years now, I think. The ability to do posts that sort of like social posts, basically. So, yeah, I think they're doing well. There's different strategies for this. So they've kind of taken a sort of catalog type strategy where they're posting specials and stuff like that. And you can add different buttons to go to your website. This probably goes to the website, I assume. So that's certainly something you should be doing. They've pretty light on their photos, much less than the hotel we looked at. So most of these, if you look up here, you can see who the photo was added by, and it's just by a regular person, not themselves. So the business if they wanted to do more, they could try and add more photos to their listing. It's quite a limited set of photos. This is a more automatically generated photo from Google Street View. Okay, maybe I'll look at, say, one more business and then kind of close this out. What's that? Crop. Oh, it's a hair salon. Wow. So this business is relatively light on the information that they've put in. They probably haven't claimed the business. So a lot of information missing. So basically, this kind of goes back to what I just said, where you don't actually own the listing so much, because you can find a business of yours on Google, even though you never did anything to add it there. So Google will scrape this data or buy this data from other platforms like the Yellow Pages and stuff like that, and they'll get business information and they'll just sort of put it on the map based on the information they have. So you always want to claim. You either want to claim it if it's in existence, or you want to add it if it's not. In some situations, for instance, if you're taking over a business, you might find that there's several listings that have come from different sources over the years in the past. And in that case, you want to try and consolidate them. You definitely don't want several listings, because that can really mess up your results. So if you've found yourself with several listings, you want to claim them all, and there's ways of merging them. Sometimes you might have to just close one, mark one as closed, but there's different ways of approaching it depending on the situation. But certainly you want to claim. So this business hasn't claimed their listing. So there's a claim process you can go through. There's different ways that works. If it's never been claimed by anybody, then it's fairly straightforward, and you'll have to do a verification, usually either using a phone number or using the address by getting something sent to your address. If someone else, like a previous owner, had the business and they had claimed it and now you want to get access to it, there's a different process for that, and that can be a little bit more drawn out, and that's something you can get help with, for example, from someone like me, or you just go through the process yourself. So there's just a bit involved with that. Worth noting that this business, any kind of business in this whole shopping center or precinct, should have a located in tag here, located in Balhannah Junction Shopping Centre, sort of extra proximity information, which can help people find the business. So you want to make sure that's correct. Now, yep, so they've got missing website, missing hours. Now, note that I've got the ability here to suggest an edit, to add hours, add a website, even though it's not my listing, I haven't logged into it or anything like that, and it probably hasn't even been claimed. So this is an example of people of the public have the ability to suggest changes to Google, suggest, put information in. Now, there's different ways that gets processed in the back end. Sometimes they might just accept that. Sometimes they're going to, if the business has an existing owner, they're going to ask them if that's correct. Sometimes they're going to ask other people that have been to that business recently or regularly, perhaps, or people that come in the future. They'll ask them, hey, are these hours correct, or is this photo of the front of the business, is the location correct? I've had that plenty of times as being a local guide myself. Local guide being the program that Google uses to incentivize people to add information to the maps. Yes, that's how that works. Photos, of course, also quite light on. I don't think there's any photos. It looks like the photos I've got here are just from the Google Street View. There's a few reviews, which is cool. Of course, there's also a negative review there. Like I said, for the other businesses, always helps to respond to reviews, to pay attention to that. Another thing worth mentioning is the business name is very non-descriptive. I mean, I guess crop, okay, when you think about it, yes, I guess I can see how that relates to hair. But you know, if you're skimming through, you know, hairdressers in the hills, looking for someone to go through, and you see the word crop, you might not necessarily recognize that that's actually relevant straight away because it's not super explanatory. Now, obviously, it'd be a big deal to change your business name. And in my original video, my first video for this series, I did explain the controversy around having keywords in the business name. So this might be a situation where you might be incentivized to do it for, you know, for reasons for optimizing your business, because just crop on its own is not very descriptive. And you could say something like crop hairdresser, crop hair salon, whatever you think is going to be the most relevant to your customers. But yeah, again, I have to mention that it is against Google's guidelines to put keywords in there that aren't actually in your business name, but you know, something to think about. Okay, I think that is enough for this video. Like I said, this is a new series. It's kind of an experiment. It's kind of about exploring different Adelaide Hills, suburbs and towns and cities. Sorry, South Australian. I'm starting with the hills, as you know, somewhere I've lived for most of my life. Yeah, just explore, do a bit of analysis, do a bit of explanation. Yeah, if you have any comments, good, bad, more of this, less of that, too long, too short, feel free to put them in the comments, or you know, feel free to reach out to me directly if you prefer. Now, the other thing I wanted to do with this series is I wanted to end each video with playing a game, which I sort of mentioned at the top of this video, where it's a geographic game where you get placed on a map and you find out where you are. I've set up a map for, now hopefully I can just switch window. Okay, hopefully you can see that now. Map maker. So this is the back end of the Geo Guesser platform, which is what the game's based on, the platform the game's based on. And you can see all these squiggly lines. That's Google Street View, the coverage of that. And I've made a map. I've made it covering both Balhannah and Oakbank. You know, they're very close to each other. They're sort of, you know, their main streets almost meld together. So they're almost the same town, but not quite. But you know, there's limited locations available within the platform. So you can't have a too small area for this. So I think it makes sense to combine the two. So this is the area we're going to be playing in. What the game's going to do, there'll be 5 different locations. It'll drop me down in one, and then I'll have to navigate through Street View to find where I am, and then I'll bring up a map and then try and pinpoint where I am, and you get points depending on how close you get it, and also you want to try and do it in the shortest time possible. I'm going to put that in a separate video. I just wanted to sort of introduce it here. You can play along. I'm going to send a link. I'll put a link in the description of the video, which allows you to play along too. And you can challenge me, and now undoubtedly you'll probably beat me. I'm not fantastic at this game. I enjoy it, and I guess I have improved. I definitely can see that I've improved over time, but my geographical information wasn't the best to begin with. I must admit. So I'm sure you will trounce me if you're at all familiar with the area, and I certainly encourage you and welcome you to do so. It'll be a bit of fun. For all of us anyway. So yeah, if you want to do that, I invite you to come along, and we'll do that in the next video. So for this video, I'll sign off here. Thanks again for watching. I hope it was useful. Any feedback or anything like that, please put in the description below, and I'll finish this one off here.